Hi guys, Jordan from B&B Campers. I'm just going to do a handover video on your Bailey approach on the Alco chassis. You can see there the weight plate for that there at 3850. The original chassis plate is this one, but you need to go off of this one just here. So this is the sort of like uprated version of it. So it's 3850. So I think it means that it gives you sort of more payload or something. I'm not really an expert with that sort of thing, but that's the one here that you want to go off. You have also got your, I think this is your paint code bits and bits and pieces to know about your air conditioning, all here just under the bonnet. Washer fluid up here on the top left, power steering fluid underneath this little cap, and your engine coolant is here. You can see the engine's cold at the moment, and it's sat just there at the maximum line, so that's absolutely perfect. Your brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back there is there in that reservoir at the top, and again you can see nice clean fluid in there just like that. Obviously it's had the full service, so everything should be topped right up anyway. Engine oil gets topped up through here. I just wanted to show you nice clean, you see the rockers in there, nice clean oil there. There's no sort of milkiness or anything like that, so there's no water or anything nasty in the engine. Engine oil dipstick is this one just here, and if you see just at the end there's a little sort of float that you can check the actual engine oil level from. And the air filter sits underneath this box just down here. The other thing I want to show you about this year of cab is that the engine battery sits under the floor in the actual cab itself, rather than under the bonnet. So when you come to jump start in the vehicle, if you ever needed to, the positive terminal is this one just here, and the negative is this little prong here. So if you want to jump start, positive there, negative just here. Your diesel filling point is just here on the near side. So you got your diesel point there. You need your ignition key to go in that to open it up. Bonnet release. I need to stick this bit back on. That's just a bit of magnet for your front blinds. It's just come off in the heat, so I'll sort that out. Bonnet release is just here inside the passenger door. And what else have we got? Oh, there you go. You got tyre pressures, cold tyre pressures, so you can sort of properly pump them up to the exact right thing. A bit more pressure in the rear tyres because there's more weight at the back there. But you know, home tyres, camping tyres need to be pumped up quite a lot more than you might think compared to a normal road tyre. Your two vents just here are for your fridge. So I've got the fridge lit up at the moment on gas, and I can feel the hot air coming out through the top of this vent just there. So that's one way of double checking that it's definitely lit up. Gas bottle in here. So you've got space for two 6 kilo propane bottles in here. It's ideally for the propanes or the 6 kilos, sorry, because you've got these little bits here that they actually kind of locate into. So that's why they sort of advise you to use these. A couple of bits to show you, but not much really. Turning the bottle on is anti-clockwise around to the left, and turning it off is clockwise around to the right. If you find that when you turn the gas bottle on you don't get any gas coming through, you need to press the little green button there and hold it for 3 seconds. So it's basically like it's almost like a crash sensor. I think it is a crash sensor actually. So what happens is if you are in a crash, the gas should stop itself coming through if you've left this bottle on. Obviously the obvious thing to do would be, like you should always do, is just turn the gas bottle off before you start driving every time, to save anything like that happening anyway. But you know, if you do forget to turn it off, then you've got the crash sensor there. So if you don't get any gas coming through to the van after you've turned it on here, push and hold on the little green button there for 3 seconds, and then it'll all purge through. But don't forget to turn it off before you start driving. Also, I just want to point out as well, I don't know if you can hear, but there's like a little hissing sound. You can probably hear it on the video. When you've got something lit up or working on gas inside the van, so I've got the Audi heating on at the moment and the fridge, you will hear that noise coming from the bottle. It's not the bottle leaking, It's just the sound of the gas going down the pipe and into the regulator. So don't worry about that noise. When you turn everything off inside the van, that noise will stop, because obviously we've done our pressure test on it and there's no leaks anywhere in the van. So that's why we're confident that it's not leaking. But all the gas bottles make that noise when there's actually something using the gas inside. Back of the van, so you've got your Audi heating, which is all of these little radiators dotted about the van. So that's how the actual heating comes around the vehicle. You've got some extra storage up here. This here is for your water inlet. So that plugs into the actual point, which I'll show you around the other side. And then you can plug that point there into an actual hose point if you want to. So that's completely up to you how you want to use that. I'll just go around the other side now. Normally I can go around the back, but there's no space. So I'll just go around. So we've got the Audi heating vent. So I've got the hot water on at the moment, and you can feel the hot air coming out through the bottom of that. So that's one way of double checking that you've got it. It's definitely lit up, as it should be. So that's what that is. Your hookup point is this one just here. So if you're at home or at your campsite, if you've got access to a hookup cable, it's always useful to have one of those. The freshwater inlet, like I showed you a minute ago, you got that pipe on the other side in the garage, which plugs into that to allow you to fill your freshwater tank up. Flush fluid for your toilet is this one here. So that's the pre-mixed pink stuff. So that's what you need to put into there. If you run out of flush fluid, I would advise you to put sort of like 3 or 4 litres into here with pre-mixed stuff. It just give you, I think they're about 5 litres or something like that, the actual tanks, but 3 or 4 litres would be good, plenty to last you quite a while. And then obviously to actually lock that up, you've got this Bailey key here. I'll just take the key out, and that's locked. Right, next bit, I'll just put the key back in the pocket. Next bit is your toilet cassette. So you've got a little yellow orange button at the back there. So you need to hold down that orange button whilst you're emptying the cassette out to wherever you're emptying it. The only other thing is really that this is where your blue fluid goes into, and that you've got this little flap just here which you can actually move. It's a bit awkward to show you on the video. You can move that backwards and forwards. So the only thing you need to do for maintenance really is just make sure that you, every once in a while if you can, give that a little silicone spray lubricant underneath there on the rubber seal. But other than that, that's about it really. Pop that back away like that, and then exactly the same thing with the same key in there, and just turn it, take it out. Now you can't open it. So at the very back, just got the other side to your garage. So absolutely loads of space in here. It's a huge, great big garage. You got a couple of things. So you got your awning winder and the centre pole for the awning winder. There you go. So there's another one of those. So this is the standard filling hose. So you just plug this into the point like I showed you, and you would normally just drop this little pump into a tank that you've got outside. So you could get one of the roll-away fresh tanks, fill the roll-away up, and then just roll it underneath and just drop this in, basically. So, it's up to you how you want to use it. Sorry about the noisy van. I'll just jump in to the van now and show you around the bits on the inside. So, we'll start in the cab, I think. So, really nice high-spec cab. There's nothing sort of too technical, but it's all nice and high-spec. You've got pretty much all the optional extras, if I'm honest. So you've got the 6-speed manual gearbox rather than the 5. So you do get that extra 6th gear whilst you're on the motorway. It does make a huge difference, especially because, it is a bigger van and they don't do the sort of car miles per gallon. But having this 6th gear when you're on the motorway for a long time is so helpful to have that. It does make a huge difference. So that's there. Cruise control is from this bottom stalk just here. Lights from that one, and your indicators on the left hand stalk. Washers and wipers on the right. You've got electric adjusting mirrors, so you can choose which mirror to move. So that's your two right ones, top and bottom, same with the left. And when you choose whichever mirror you want to move, just use this as a little joystick, and then it will just basically move the mirror exactly where you wanted to move it to. You've got the reversing camera and sensors. So this will come on as soon as you put the ignition on. If you don't want it to be on the whole time that you're driving, then you can just press the off button and it will just turn off. So that's entirely up to you, again, how you want to use that. Hazards from that button just there, and you can lock and unlock the cab from inside, which when you get around to actually properly camping, you'll find is actually really helpful. Rather than trying to clamber around trying to find the keys, you can just press the button in the cab there and just lock it up like that. You've also got your heater settings, which are all here. Air conditioning works from that little button just there, and that'll obviously only come on when you have the little switch there on 1 or above. So that's all there if you should need it. The original sort of double DIN size, or even bigger than that, Peugeot head unit is there as well. So you've got a few different options of how you can actually listen to music or whatever you want to do on that. Steering wheel controls, they're all linked up to the stereo system, and obviously because it's the original one, this will all work as you would expect it to. Somebody, previous owner, has obviously put this up here so that you can look up if you're going to go abroad or anything like that. It's always helpful to have something like this, even when you're in the UK actually, because you can, if you see a sign, you can have a little look on here and just quickly check to see if you're sort of able to go wherever it is you want to go. But yeah, that's there if you should need that. Otherwise, I think that's about it for the cab really. Your seats both swivel around via these little pulleys here, so you just pull them out. So if I show you this one, pull it back like that, and then once you've pulled it back, the seat will swivel around. And you've also got the blinds that come across like this. The front ones are exactly the same, apart from when you pull them to the middle, they meet together with the little magnetic strip here, and then when they meet together, they just sort of hold on to each other. So that is there. You just sort of push it all the way back and then clip it in. So that's the cab. I mean, there are other bits and pieces in the cab, but they're the sort of, they're the main important parts. So I would have climbed around to the back, but I'll just show you. I've got the battery box here open so I can show you the batteries. So I couldn't walk through this. So right, first things first, I'll show you the control panel, which is so nice and simple. If you press on this right hand little button here, it comes up with your water level, so that's your fresh water, and then your wastewater. Fill internal tank, so you can turn that one on when you want to pull the water in from your external filling point. You need to turn that one on there, fill internal tank. External temperature and internal temperature. Battery select, you want to leave that one on leisure. So the reason you want to leave it on leisure is you've got your engine battery in the floor down in the cab, which is for starting the vehicle only, and you've got these two batteries down here, which are your leisure for doing things like powering the lights. So if I change that over to vehicle, which I have done just there, now all the lights and the heating and everything that's on at the moment is all being powered via the engine battery, which is obviously not ideal, because if you leave this on like this now for however long, you won't be able to start the engine up because the engine battery will be flat. So you want to leave that on leisure as much as you possibly can. If you ever have to, if your leisure batteries go flat and you desperately need some lights for something or whatever, you can switch over to it, but it's not something that you should do really. It's not a good idea at all, because when you, like I said, if you start using the battery and then forget that you've got it left on there, you'll go to start the engine the next morning and it'll be completely dead. So leave it on leisure, especially leave it on leisure because you've got two whacking great big batteries down there in line. So it's always best to leave it on leisure as best you can. I'll just go back through because that's just gone off. So battery select, leave it on leisure. Leisure battery amps, so just telling you how many amps is actually being drawn through the batteries at the moment. Leisure battery voltage 12.4. So bearing in mind I've got every single light in here on all the, you know, the heating's on, all that sort of stuff. 12.4, 12.5 is actually really, really good. And that's it. So that's all your levels and checking things. You then got master, which turns the whole thing on and off, so I'm not going to use that one at the moment. Lights, lights off, lights on. Awning light on. So if you look up here now, you've got the awning light on there. So if you want to turn that off, you can do so just by pressing the awning button, and then the pump switch, pump off, pump on. So that's the control panel. It's really nice and simple. If you want to start using your hot water and your heating and all that sort of stuff, there is one thing that you should do first. So turn your pump switch on. This is assuming that you've got some water in the tank, by the way. So you've gone through and you've checked. So at the moment, I've got 25% in the water tank, so I'm good to go. Water pump switch on, and then just do this basically. Just pull the hot water. That's coming through nice and clear. Pull the cold water. Also coming through nice and clear. Turn it off. And that's it. If the water's coming through, if your pump switch is on and the water comes through the tap nice and clearly without any problems, then you're good to go. You can use your hot water, you can do whatever you like. The reason for that is if you don't do that and the Aldi tank is completely empty, and you turn the Aldi heating on to heat the water up and there's nothing inside of it, what will happen is it'll kind of overheat. And, you know, because if there's nothing inside that it's actually heating up, then it'll get too hot. So you need to make sure that you just double check the water's coming through okay, and that'll prove to you that your boiler is full of water and that you can go ahead and use it. So that's that. The next one is your actual Aldi controller. So you've got a main on and off switch just here. So I've just turned it off and turn it back on again. So if I show you how to use it, this little home screen is really helpful. So this little button here, this little light here, I'll show you. You've got up here is telling you the temperature that the van wants to be, okay? So the temperature that you've set it to is this one up here. So 30 degrees, because it's cooler than 30 degrees inside the van right now, it will try and heat the van up to 30. And it does that via these little radiators that are dotted about. I can feel that they're already hot. They'll be all over the place, those little things. Any van that has Aldi heating, you'll find there's a little gap between the sides of the beds. So basically the heating comes up through the sides and all over the place. So that's a really, really good sort of plus side to the Aldi system. But for the minute, because it's really hot outside, I don't want that heating to be on. So I'm going to turn that right down. I have to do it one by one. I'm going to turn that right down to 20. Right, so now that I've turned that down to 20, I know for a fact that it's hotter than 20 degrees in here. So that heating isn't going to be on, all right? So if tonight, for example, this van went down to 16 degrees inside, the heating would come on and just keep the van sitting at 20 degrees, all right? Just like a household heating system would work. The next one down is the hot water. So I can use full power on the hot water, half, or, well, that's it, I think. So half or full power. You've then got underneath there, so the top two, hot water heating, all right? The bottom two are the way that the Aldi system works. So you've got gas down here, so gas off. That'll then turn all of the power off to the boiler won't be working at all then, because I've got electric off and gas off, so there's no way they're actually working. If I had an electric hookup plugged into the van, I could go 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, or 3 kilowatt. If it was up to me, I wouldn't go any higher than 2 kilowatt because of the amount of power that, well, I mean, it might sound obvious, but 3 kilowatts draws way too much power, in my opinion. I don't advise you use it at all. 2 kilowatt is plenty. The reason I say that, so if you were plugged in to, if you're at a campsite and you were plugged into a 10 amp pole, sometimes that if you have it on 3 kilowatt, it can actually draw about 8 or 9 amps just from there. So if you were plugged into a 10 amp pole, you had it on 3 kilowatt, you'd be drawing about 9 amps. If you plugged anything into a 3-pin socket around the vehicle, anything at all that is 1 amp or above, then your power would trip basically. So it's really important that you just keep your eye on how much power you're using at any time via the electric, you know, the 240 volt. So if, for example, I'll show you the fridge in a minute in more detail, but if I had the fridge here on the 240 volt switch and I had this on 3 kilowatt, if I was plugged into a 10 amp pole, I'm pretty certain that you overload the power, because that would be over 10 amps that you're actually drawing. So in my opinion, like I said, I would leave it on 2 kilowatt or below. If you don't have hookup plugged in, then obviously that one just has to stay off because it won't work. But at the moment I've got the gas switched on, so I can turn the gas switch on and then put the hot water up. So at the minute, the hot water is going to be on and it's going to be working via the gas. Right, so that's how that works. Set your temperature to whatever you want the van to be, set your hot water to wherever you want that to be, and then just choose which energy you want it to use. If I turn this off, that's the Audi system switched off. So that's that. Right, so that's your 2 controllers up there. You have got a smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm up there. I'm not sure whether or not the habitation check went through with these. I don't know if they're in date or not. I'd have to have a little look at the sheet, but they are both there. All of the paperwork that we leave with you for the van is in that brown box just there that this is leaning up against. But I just wanted to show you down here. So there's not really much that I have to actually explain, because it's just, you know, they are just batteries. But the size of these batteries, you would normally have one smaller battery than this in most motorhomes. So this is like 110 amp hour or something like that. Most motorhomes would just have one sort of 85 amp hour battery. So the fact that you've got these 2 sort of 110s or whatever they are, 115s, I don't know, is, you know, you're going to have plenty of power for all sorts of stuff in this van. So just thought I'd make you aware of that. This, I mean, that's not to say that you can't go wrong with it. You know, if you don't put a hookup into the van every once in a while, or don't take the van for a decent drive, then obviously that, you know, these batteries will go flat. But it's just, you know, I just thought I'd point out that they are both pretty hefty. So this bit goes in here until it sits in. So that's sat in there like that. And then this bit just comes over like that. So, so yeah, I hope that sort of made sense, like what I was saying about the 240 volt as well. So it's always just helpful to keep your eye, or, you know, have a little think about how much power you might be drawing at one time. So like, just for another example, if you had a hookup plugged into the van, you can use this hot ring at the back. So this won't work unless a hookup's plugged in, but if you have this on 6, they can draw up to about 5 amps. So you got that on 6, 5 amps. You got the fridge on main, that's about 1 amp, so that's 6 amps. If you then put this on 3 kilowatts, it'll be drawing another 9 amps. You'd be looking at what, 15 amps? I don't know if any pole that you can plug into can take that much power. So it would just trip it basically. So you just need to make sure that you just keep your eye on how much you're using at any one time. You don't have to sort of go crazy on it. You don't have to be thinking about it constantly. It's just that if you are going to be using if you're going to be using the hot water or heating on the electric, or, you know, 1, 2 or 3 kilowatts, that's when I would advise you just keep your eye on the amount of power that you're using at one time. The other stuff is reasonably low, you know, ampage wise. So anyway, really nice van. You've got the vents just here for the heating. That's all of these little vents that you see are all just for the heating. So you've got one down there as well, a couple down there, sorry, up here, just as soon as you come in the van. So, you know, they're all over the place, so they pretty quickly get these vans nice and warm. Right, so I'll show you the fridge next, probably the most logical way to do it. Okay, so on the left hand side here, you've got a little selector. Selecting basically which energy to cool the fridge down on. So at the moment it's aiming down, and that's for the gas. So if you want to light it up on gas, you have to do more stuff over here. But if you want to light it up on gas, you just go all the way down to like where it is now. If you've already pre-cooled the fridge, and I'll explain this in a minute, if you've already pre-cooled the fridge and you're going to start the engine up and start driving somewhere, you would then go to this one here, which is the 12 volt. And if you had an electric hookup plugged into the van, you'd probably want to be here on electric hookup. If you want to turn the fridge off, all the way up to the top, and that's it, just leave it. So, it's only sort of like an opinion thing. So if I had an electric hookup plugged into the van, even if I did have gas, personally, I'd be there on electric hookup. If you've already pre-cooled the fridge and you want to start driving, you go down to here to the 12 volt. And if you want to light it up on gas, down to gas, watch this little green level sort of meter, and then all you have to do is push in on this whilst you push down hard on this igniter switch. So it's lit up. You see there it's going into the green. I'm just holding down on this little button here, going up. Then I can let go. And that bar will just keep on going up really, really slowly into the green. Now, if you watch what happens when I turn this off, so that's the flame going out. All right. So if that line starts going up into the green, that's when you know that the flame is lit. So that's how you use the fridge. The reason, like I said, I'll explain about the 12 volt. You need to pre-cool the fridge first. That's because you've got a 12 volt element and a 240 volt element. So the 240 is when you're hooked up, which is why you got the little hookup symbol, and the 12 volt is a 12 volt element, which runs from your leisure batteries basically, or your engine battery. So the reason why you have to pre-cool it is because the 12 volt element isn't powerful enough to get the fridges cold on its own. They're all the same, it's not just this one. So basically, if you're going to go away tomorrow morning, I always say, if you're going to go tomorrow morning, pre-cool the fridge the night before you go away. So if you have access to a hookup cable at home, just pop it over the hookup, and then by the morning, you know, the fridge will be cold, and then all you have to do is just switch down to 12 volt. When you get to wherever you're going, switch it back to whichever one you've got. If you've got mains plugged in, switch it back to mains. If you don't, put your gas on at the bottle and then light it up. All right, so I hope that makes sense. This little cupboard down here, you've got a couple of trays here. This bit here is the little covers for your sink. So if you wanted those, you've got those there. And you've got a little drawer here. I think it's like a cutlery drawer, like a soft closing type thing. There we go. Oh no, cutlery drawers up here. So various bits and pieces up there. Okay. A couple of 240 volt sockets just up there, as well as one just here. Tend to find that these British built vehicles have got more power sockets in them, so two more just there, than sort of, you know, the German built vehicles. It's not that, you know, one's better than the other, they just happen to put more power sockets in, so that's always, you know, always helpful really. Just quickly tell you what this little sign here means. So keep window closed when the fridge is in operation on gas. So if you had the fridge lit up on gas, like I showed you, you've got the vent just here. So the actual exhaust for the fridge on gas is just there, and you can see there it's right below the window. So if you had that lit up on gas and you had the window open, all those fumes would just be coming straight in. So that's why you've got this little window here, and that means even on a little, you know, on a little opening, if you've got it lit up on, if you've got it working on the mains, it doesn't matter at all, because the mains is just literally an element that gets hot. So there's no sort of chance of any nasty fumes coming in. So if you're on mains, open it up, do whatever you want. If you're on gas, just make sure that you keep that shut. Any other windows are fine, it's just this one here. You've also got the same sticker over here. So if you've got the boiler working on gas, you should keep this window shut, because of the vent that I showed you on the outside is just below this window. So again, it's just really, really, you know, important. The carbon monoxide that comes out through those would just be coming straight into the van if you had this open. So that's really important to remember. But same goes for that. If you had the boiler working on only mains and no gas, you can open the window, it doesn't matter. All right, so that's up to you. All right, the cooker, I've already showed you that you can have the hot ring working at the back there if you want to, if you have the mains plugged in, and you just literally choose 1 round to 6, whichever one you want. The rest of it, you've got an ignition just here. So the ignition does 3 burners and the grill and the oven. All right, it does it all at the same time. Just notice that those screws are hanging out, so I'll put those back on. So 3 burners. All you have to do is just like, I mean, I don't need to show you this really. It's just like any household cooker, but if you watch, it'll just light up, and then you can let go of that, and it will stay on. They'll all be the same. The only thing I want to show you or talk to you about is that you've got one of these down here on every gas appliance in this entire van. So this is a thermocouple or a flame failure device. What they do is they sense burning gas. So when I lit that up just then, if the thermocouple didn't recognise that there was burning gas there, when I let go of the knob, when I let go of it and it stayed lit, the gas would just stop. It would go out. So that's why sometimes if you light them up and then, well, I'm trying to show you, if you light them up and then let go of the button too quickly, see the flame went straight out, it didn't stay on. Same again, so if I show you, like that. So the reason that's happening is the thermocouple isn't getting hot enough to recognise the gas, and it's not allowing it to come through. Whereas if I push and hold on it and hold it on for a few seconds, hold on to it, and now let go, it stays on. So basically the reason they have those is if I lit any of those up and the wind came through, or somebody blew the flame out without you turning this off, so without you isolating the gas via this knob, the thermocouple will recognise that there's no more burning gas there anymore, and after a few seconds or so you'll hear a little click, which is the thermocouple, or the little magnetic valve inside shutting off the gas, so that you can't just fill this van up with gas, basically. All right, so that's why you've got those. They all work. They all have to be checked as part of the habitation check. Grill door, obviously like at home, you need to have that open when you light this up, so that's this one here. And the oven, you don't have to have the oven door open, obviously, because it wouldn't get hot, but that's just this one over here. So that's that. I'll put those 2 screws back down in a minute. Various sort of light switches all over the place, so those 2 there are from this little button here. You have also got a couple of other things I want to show you. So you've got this little bit up here, which is nice and solid for you to put a TV on. And the reason I say that is because they've put this little, so you can buy these basically just as they are now. So it's a 12-volt point and a TV aerial point. So basically they've kind of said, this is where I reckon you should put a TV, basically. And so that's why that's there. But you've also got another one just down here towards the front, which you can see somebody in the past has actually had a TV mounted there. So you've got another one of those just there. So if you do have a TV, they've basically just given you sort of points that you can plug them into where they think is best. In here you've got like a sort of really deep cupboards in here, so you've got like, it's almost like a wardrobe, I suppose. You can lift this up so you can get in there easier. There's all kinds of little quirky bits and pieces about this van, which I'll let you find out most of those, and you will find them all out. Your wardrobe, strangely enough, instead of being like a normal upright wardrobe, it's actually down here underneath this bed. And again, you can lift this up so you can actually hang your clothes. You'd be surprised that actually this is pretty much the same size as any other wardrobe. It's just that it's down low rather than up high. So this is your sort of hanging rail for your clothes, other bits and pieces down there, whatever you like. But it's really clever how they've done that. It means that you don't have to take up a huge amount of space for a great big wardrobe in the middle here somewhere, so you can have a really nice sized bathroom. But yeah, otherwise I think back here it is just kind of beds and lights and things like that, so I don't need to show you all of that. So yeah, so I've shown you your cooker, the Fridge, both the control panels up there, batteries down there. The Audi system itself will be down here because that's where the vent is. So if I just move these bits out of the way, see if we can see anything. Okay, so if we lift this up. Okay, so just trying to see if there's anything to show you. Right, so the little yellow button down there, the little sort of lever, that is your boiler dropout. So where it is at the moment, where it's horizontal, is in its closed position. No water is going to come out through that boiler now. If you lifted that up so it's vertical, all of the water will come pouring out. So they're about 10 litres, I think, or maybe 15 litres, I'm not sure. So the reason you would want to drain that boiler out is if it was coming up to winter and you weren't going to be using the van and it was going to get really, really cold in here, you need to drain the water out before it gets to that point, basically. So you reach down there, lift it up, and then just leave it like that. When you come to filling the boiler or filling the van back up again, make sure that you put that down first, fill the van up, and then you have to do what I said, like I showed you over there, where you pulled the water through and just made sure that it came through okay. That's why you do that. If you drain the boiler out and you need to fill it up again for the first time, you need to do like I showed you at the very beginning, pulling it through the tap and waiting for it to come through nice and clear. But that's, the reason why I wanted to show you that is because the Audi system in here is by far the most expensive thing to replace. So you do need to take good care of that. Pull the water through hot and cold first before you start trying to do anything, just as like a fail safe. But if you have actually emptied the boiler out and you need to refill it, it's even more important to come here, because the way that you actually fill the boilers up is just exactly like I showed you. You just pull the hot water up and just wait for the water to come through here. Because for the first, if it's empty, when you start putting the hot water through, you'll just get nothing but air for about 2-3 minutes. And that's totally normal. That's just the boiler filling itself up. So, I think I've shown you... No, I haven't. I haven't shown you the bathroom yet. That's my fault. Right, so you've got another radiator in here. So this is a bathroom one for the Audi system. That's the same as they all have. Toilet, this is just something that's been in the shower. Toilet is really nice and simple. So you've got your flush button up here. So the flush fluid probably needs filling up. So there you go, that's a good example. When the flush fluid needs filling up, that's what it will do. It will just basically make the noise and nothing will come out. If you want to drain it out into the cassette, open, that drains it into the cassette, and closed stops it going in. And the shower system is all pretty straightforward. You've got a separate sink and shower, and the door comes across from here. Light switch, I'm not exactly sure where the light switch is. It might be on the... Oh, it's up here. There you go. So, all we need to do now, really, I know that you're not coming to get the van just this second, but we just need to give it a good clean on the inside and outside, and we'll be ready to go. So, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon to collect your van. Thanks very much.